Thank you for joining me on Life and Surround. Today it's time to talk about the 50th anniversary Super Deluxe Edition Surround Series Blu-ray of Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. This is it right here. Here's the slip sleeve, and here is the Blu-ray case. Comes with one standalone disc. And a booklet. And the booklet's pretty cool. It gives a discussion about how the Atmos mix was achieved by David Costin. And that's actually pretty fascinating. You know, it can be quite a challenge to start from multi-track 2-inch tape and correctly find all of the takes that are necessary. Tubular Bells was done with 250 plus overdubs. So very cool to get a brief write-up from David Costin about the Atmos mix. And then there's also just an essay about how the album came to be. Mike Oldfield was a bass player and guitarist for a UK band. And in his spare time at gigs, in between gigs, rehearsals, and in downtime at studios, he began recording a demo of Tubular Bells in 1971, I believe. And I'm going to get to that because that's important. That demo is actually really cool. So, but in terms of what you can get on this 50th anniversary Blu-ray before it sells out, you know, if that's meant to be, you get a 2023 Atmos mix of the entire album, parts 1 and 2. You get the 2009 Mike Oldfield 5.1 mix in lossless. So it's been available in an older set as Dolby Digital, and now you get it lossless. And so that's very cool. It was available briefly as a download through some sort of promotion, I think from B&W. But anyway, now it's on disc, so you can own it and have a backup copy. You get the 1975 Quad mix lossless, and you get an intro edit in Atmos. And that intro edit is basically like if you just want to hear the part from The Exorcist. Okay, so very cool. And then it's also got a lot of stereo content. It's got 2023 stereo mix lossless. It's got the original 1973, which I think is very valuable. And then it's got that intro as a stereo version. And then it has a stereo version of Tubular Bells 4, the intro to Tubular Bells 4, which Mike ultimately abandoned, but you get the 2017 demo of the 4th installment, which never came to be. So he did return to Omadon, and then he started on Tubular Bells 4 and then decided to actually retire. So anyway, this is a very cool Blu-ray. It's packed with lots of good content. I can tell you this, if you're interested in a high-res lossless copy of the original 1973 mix, that almost makes this Blu-ray worth it on its own. Okay, and then if you are interested in the new Atmos mix, you're going to hear the original recording of Tubular Bells in just the utmost detail and clarity. And I think there's a problem there. But again, you also have the 2009 5.1 mix in lossless, which Mike did. So you have lots of options here. I'm going to point to another disc as what I feel is essential for Tubular Bells. So this is important. This is cool to have. And if the value squares up for you, totally go for it. I recommend it. You no longer are going to need the SACD from Japan. This is the same quad mix that appears on the Blu-ray. Slightly different mastering to my ears, but they both suffice. So you no longer need the Japanese Blu-ray unless you just want to have it around to put it on for, you know, menuless playback or just for whatever reason. If you like Obi strips. And then you don't really need the boxed set anymore. For Tubular Bells, at least. This also has quad mixes of Hergest Ridge and Omadon, not to mention some collaborative stuff, like a 4th record. So this is actually, I think it's SQ encoded. So if you run it through a decoder like a Surround Master, the CD set does decode to quad. So this is cool, but just not essential if you are purely a fan of Tubular Bells. All right. The disc that I hold to be essential. Some of you already know what I'm going to say. The 2003 re-recording of Tubular Bells. This was done for the 30th anniversary of the album, so 1973 to 2003. There's a reason why Mike decided to re-record the entire album. To my ears, this is the best sounding version of Tubular Bells 1, you know, the debut piece. Now, I believe that Mike went to re-record the album just because with 30 years of experience, he was no longer quite happy with the way that the debut was recorded, just the sonics of some of the parts. And he mentioned getting a thrill out of like doing everything on the first take, but that also meant that he left some things that he felt to be mistakes in the mix. So with 2003, you get the album re-recorded, 2003 technology with 30 years of Mike's experience with playing and performing, recording, mixing, what he's listening for. This is a fairly aggressive 5.1 mix. I actually, consider this to be just, very interesting purely with respect to surround. It's not going to be quite as immersive as the new Atmos mix because you have more speakers involved and you have, 3D capability. But as far as 5.1 goes, 5.1 can be very nicely immersive, especially if your room has any acoustic reflective quality at all. And this just sounds so good. There are things that annoy me about the original recording of Tubular Bells that have basically been fixed here. This just sounds amazing without being clinical while still being plenty eclectic and to me really having the essential spirit of Tubular Bells. This sounds perfect. It's like, Mike took all of his experience and just really decided to nail this piece. So things that kind of annoy me about the original mix become so clear in the Atmos mix that they annoy me even more. And particularly like I could point to the section called Finale in part 1, where there's this like really tortured instrument in the front left channel. And it's like a bass guitar with intermittent faulting in its connection or something like, and in the original stereo mix, and that's why I say it's important that, the original stereo mix is on the Blu-ray. In the original stereo mix, that part is there and it does occasionally sound damaged, but it also blends in most of the time. And so it really is possible to focus on the showcased instruments, now presenting the nylon string guitar and now the Tubular Bells, that whole section is really distracting to me in Atmos because that tortured instrument is so freaking detailed. It grabs my attention and doesn't let go. So anyway, so if I have a criticism of the new Atmos mix, it sounds too separate. It sounds too revealing. And there are times when giving a record too much separation can be a bad thing. So I often point to Steven Wilson's 5.1 mix of Close to the Edge by Yes. I love most of Steven Wilson's 5.1 mixes, and I love most of his Yes mixes. But Close to the Edge, it just separates vocals out too much. And so you end up hearing some pitchiness that may be blent in the reverb altogether, but then really come apart when they're separated, like they fall apart in a bad way. So anyhow, Tubular Bells, 50th anniversary. Happy birthday, Tubular Bells. What an amazing record. Whatever version you have, whether it's vinyl, like back there, whether it's CD, SACD, DVD, Blu-ray, this is just a wonderful piece of work. Oh, and about the demos, The 1971 demos, that's another reason why the 2003 DVD is so essential. This actually has the 1971 demos in glorious stereo with tape dropouts and tape crunching and the whole thing. But there's enough audible material that it is actually a really interesting listen to hear him like in between rehearsals and downtime at studios, with makeshift equipment, just getting this piece out of his head and onto tape, and to hear how remarkably close it is actually to the 1973 debut album recording. It's just remarkable. So this album didn't come out of thin air. Obviously, Mike Oldfield imagined all of it, but there was a process. And listening to the 1971 demo is just so cool. Like in terms of it's a cool historical document. If you want to hear the evolution of this album, I'm tempted to rip it and put it up and see if it gets blocked or not. All right, so in conclusion, I feel like you should have both of these. You're going to get the best sonic experience with 30 years of, industry and performing experience from Mr. Oldfield, really going to town on making sure that the album just sounds amazing. And then to honor that original recording, which is just such a cool listening experience, warts and all. You're going to have high-res stereo here. You're going to have lossless 5.1 from 2009, and you're going to have lossless Atmos from 2023. So, oh man, just get both. That's my recommendation. Get both. If you have to have only one, 2003 for me. I don't have any nostalgia for the original recording. I just don't. And so I sit and I listen, and 2003 sounds better, and the surround is in some cases just jaw-dropping. Like it really is a cool surround experience. All right, so this has been a review of Tubular Bells at the 50th anniversary. The surround series tends to sell out, so get on it. If you're interested, get on it. And of course, let everyone know what you think. I appreciate all of your comments. If you like what I do, don't forget to like this video and other videos. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the notification bell, especially if you want news about music that's coming out and exciting events in the surround music world, interviews and stuff like that. So I appreciate all of your support. And until next time, live life in surround.